Hey, welcome to the United We Scan podcast. Just a quick disclaimer here that any of the views and opinions expressed by the individuals are not that of the USPS or the NRLCA. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and if you are in need of any assistance, please contact your designated union representative. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. Episode 146. So tonight we're gonna touch on all those fun, big, beautiful bill overtime tax break letters everybody's been getting. I guess I haven't received mine yet. If I did, I don't know where it's at because I was gone for a couple days. But I know a lot of people have gotten them. Some of us haven't gotten them yet. And people have been flooding the social webs with it. So we're kind of going to touch on how it's supposed to be deciphered and where they get the numbers from. That the best of information that we could dig up. So on that note, how was your week, Josh?
Excuse me. My week was pretty good. I don't remember if we were on here or not. Car things again. This time it was my fault. I seemed to strategically misplace my car key, which cost me a tow and $300 to get a replacement and it programmed. And that work-wise, it was work. Meow. How was your week?
It was work. Week was okay. Nothing really too memorable I think happened. Just kind of I have a lot of growth on my route, so it's just trying to maintain that. I have new buildings that are because the weather's been so nice here, the construction workers have been able to build a little quicker, so I'm normally like this time of the year it's kind of a little bit of a break in the growth part, but they've finished some buildings right before Christmas and now there's like an influx of people moving in, and it's like a townhouse building, and this building specifically is different than all the rest of them in that area, so kind of trying to find where all their front doors are, making sure I'm getting that all squared away. So, but other than that, how was your week, Kristen?
Oh, Monday and Tuesday weren't too bad. I was away for Wednesday and Thursday and came back Friday. Luckily, I had a heads up Thursday on my drive home that no Amazon or DPS showed up in my office on Thursday. So Friday, I walk into 2 runs of DPS and double Amazon. Kind of felt like Christmas all over again. But so yeah, and then of course we had weather that moved in, snow, that wonderful, wonderful stuff we get in January. And so that made my long day even longer to approximately nearly 11 and a half hours on Friday. But that was okay because I knew when I walked out of the office, I had a 3-day weekend and I was not returning my route until the 26th. So yeah, then we'll play cleanup all over again, but it's all good. So I'm on to the next step of my next hat I'll be wearing with the Girl Craft. So, I have more training to do. But other than that, it wasn't really that
Woohoo!
bad of a week. Yeah, I'm pretty excited. I've been, today, I finally went out and got myself a filing cabinet and cleaning up my office space and organizing my stuff, and which has been a long time overdue. So, finally, getting some productivity done on the home front too. So, other than that, it hasn't been bad of a week. I'll be out of
Nice.
town the rest of this week, starting tomorrow evening and get home Friday night and back to the grind on next Monday. Now, from my understanding, you guys have SAC next weekend?
Yep. So this is going
Yep,
to be a
yep.
short week for me. Get
Yeah,
paid
I worked
Tuesday,
2 days.
Wednesday, and then I'm off until Tuesday the 27th, is it?
So we'll
Yep.
go ahead and skip next week. So that's not a big deal.
So we'll
We can
let you
party
know.
it up.
I won't be able to make SAC, so it's all good. But we can skip a week. Ain't gonna hurt nothing unless something pops up and we decide to do something in the middle of the week. And do apologize. Last week's episode didn't come out until Wednesday, but that's family stuff going and other stuff going on Sunday. So You know, it happens, but we did what we could, and we still got an episode out last week.
Yeah, we're busy people.
Yeah, we really are. And me throwing another hat on is just making me even busier, but it's all good. This is a hat that I've wanted to wear for a while, so I'm pretty excited for this next step.
Yeah, it will be good. So,
Yes, yes, it
well,
will.
so tonight I thought we could, or we all kind of thought that we could, talk about the no tax on overtime. I know we've kind of briefly talked about it before. But before we get into it, I just want to say we are not tax professionals. We are
No,
not.
we are not payroll specialists. We are just rural carriers trying to help some other rural carriers out there decipher
Yeah.
this stuff.
And personally, I know that there's a lot of I even was confused by some of it too, and I've had I sometimes overthink it. But I hope
No.
some of this language. Yeah, no, some of this
You
language.
overthink.
Yeah, no, not at all. I hope some of this language that we are going to read will help you and guide you into whatever you need to do come your taxes. Uh, I would keep track of some of this language numbers I'm going to read. Just get like a pencil. You can write this on your uh, letter that you got from the post office, or like put a little sticky note with your W-2 once we get our W-2s, so that if you do need to possibly bring it up to a tax person, you have the ability to do so. But back at the beginning of last year, there was a bill that got passed called the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. And if you just follow the news part, it's there's a section in there that's labeled no tax on overtime, no tax on car loan interest, and I think there's also like no taxes on tips. So I'm just gonna, I know there's some legalese in here, but I just want to read the verbatim language from the Big Beautiful Bill Act, because this was passed by Congress and the administration. It was not passed by the Postal Service or the union, the NRLCA. So if there's any finger pointing that needs to happen, that's, and we're, our pay structure as rural carriers is complicated, I would say, to some people if you're not like ingrained in the understanding of our evaluated system. So there might
It's
be a
even
little bit more.
complicated. It's even complicated to the ones that are in our pay system.
Yeah, or people that have worked here for 20 years and have been a rural carrier for 20 years and still don't understand it. So it's good refresher if you do understand it. And but first I want to read the language. It's in statute 174, section 70202, no tax on overtime. Part 7, sorry, A, deductions allowed. Part 7 of subchapter B of chapter 1, as amended by the preceding provisions of this act, is amended by redesignating section 225 as section 226, and by inserting after section 224 the following new section. Section 225, qualified overtime compensation. A, in general, there shall be allowed as a deduction an amount equal to the qualified overtime compensation received during the taxable year and included on statements furnished to the individual pursuant to section 6041D4 or 6051A19. Limitations. 1. In general, the amount allowed as a deduction under this section for any taxable year shall not exceed $12,500 or $25,000 in the case of a joint return. 2. Limitations based on adjusted gross income. A. In general, the amount allowable as a deduction under subsection A after application of paragraph 1 shall be reduced, but not below zero, by $100 for each $1,000 by which the employer's modified adjusted gross income exceeds $150,000 or $300,000 in the case of a joint return. Modified adjusted gross income for the purposes of this paragraph, the term modified adjusted gross income means the adjusted gross income of the taxpayer for the taxable year increased by any amount excluded from gross income under section 911, 931, or 933. Sorry, guys. I know this is a lot of reading, but it's important. Qualified overtime compensation. In general, for purposes of this section, the term qualified overtime compensation means overtime compensation paid to an individual required under the Section 7 of the Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938 that is in excess of the regular rate as used in such section at which such individual is employed. 2. Exclusions. Such term shall not include any qualified tip. And then that's about like the no tax on tips. And then section D, social security number required. And in general, no deduction shall be allowed under the section unless the taxpayer includes on the return of tax for the taxable year such individual's social security number. Social security number defined for purposes of paragraph 1. The term social security number shall have the meaning given such in section 24H7. So I'm not going to read that one part, but sorry. Section F, regulations. The secretary shall issue such regulations or other guidance as may be necessary or appropriate to carry out the purposes of this section, including regulations or other guidance to prevent abuse of the deduction allowed by this section. And then G, termination. No deduction shall be allowed under this section for any taxable year beginning after December 31st, 2028. Deduction allowed to non-itemizers, section 63B, as amended by the preceding provisions of this act, is amended by striking and at the end of paragraph 4 by striking the period. So then they, trying to think if I need to read this. It's going to get, all right. At the beginning of paragraph 5 and inserting section C, reporting. 1, requirement to include overtime compensation on W-2. Section 6051A, as amended by the preceding provisions of this act, is amended by striking and at the end of paragraph 17, by striking the period at the end of paragraph 18 and inserting and by inserting after paragraph 18 the following new paragraph. 19. The total amount of qualified overtime compensation as defined in section 225, which is what 225C, which is just what I read above. Section 2, payments to persons not treated as employees under tax laws. Section A, statement furnished to secretary, section 6041A, as amended by Section 70201E1A, is amended by inserting a separate accounting of any amount of qualified overtime compensation as defined in section 225C after occupation of the person receiving such tips. Anyways, all right. Enough of that. So, did I lose you guys? Are you guys still with me?
Yep, I'm here.
Everybody's falling off.
What? Sorry,
Okay.
I fell asleep.
What? Yep, everybody
I
fell
said, what?
asleep.
I fell asleep.
I'm still with you, but I'm crazy like
Okay.
that, so it's all good.
Yeah.
No, I was with you.
Before I read the next chunk, I want to read all the like legalese verbatim language first before I go into what the letter was that we got from the Postal Service. So, if you have a pencil or paper, write this down. Elm section 443.3 exemptions. And then 443.31 policy. 443.311 general. The FLSA exempts from its overtime provisions any employee whose work qualifies the employee as a bona fide executive, administrative, professional, outside sales, computer, or highly compensated employee. The Postal Service applies these classifications consistently according to the requirements set forth in the FLSA and the FLSA regulations. Section 443.312, Postal Service Administration, the Office of Compensation makes FLSA classification determinations. Now, I'm going to jump for a second here and I'm going to talk a little bit about where did it go? The FLSA, the Fair Labor Standards Act. And I'm not going to go into all of this because it's going to get real confusing. If you want to go onto the DOL.gov, which is the Department of Labor.gov, and you can look up Fair Labor Standards Act and Overtime Pay Interpretive Guide, there is an entire guide that explains, and this kind of left field here, if you want to know like why that ELM language is in there, it's purposefully because of the Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938 lists out like it there's chapter 22 of it, executive, administrative, professional, or outside salespersons exemptions. So there's different exemptions in here of classifications. Where did it just go? So back to the ELM. Section 444 of the ELM, which is also very important here. 444.1 Regular Rural Carriers. Granted annual wage. The National Rural Letter Carrier Agreement conforms to Section 7B2 of the FLSA. Certain regular rural carriers assigned to a route of 35 hours or more, 31 paid miles or more, receiving a guaranteed annual wage based on the number of hours or miles assigned to their route. Section 444.12 Base rate of pay. The base rate of pay for these rural carriers equals the base annual rate of a 40-hour evaluated route plus overtime at 1.5 times the base hourly rate for all assigned hours or equivalent miles in excess of 2,080 hours, 2,184 miles for the 1 mileage route a year. Hours worked in excess of 12 hours a day or 56 hours in an FLSA work week are payable at 150% of the carrier's regular rate. 444.2 Other rural carriers. Rural carriers who are not covered under the guarantee provisions of Section 7B2 of the FLSA are compensated at the rate of a 40-mile route in accordance with the compensation provisions of 433 and 434. So basically, that's the ELM section that coincides with the contract and coincides with the Fair Labor Standards Act in showing that we have the overtime rate, our overtime in regular rural carrier salary is built in at time and a half for those hours over 40. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yes.
So then the one big, so the IRS also now has provisions here that there is the no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, new deduction effective for 2025 through 2028. So this isn't going to be the first year we're going to deal with this. Individuals who received qualified overtime compensation may deduct the pay that exceeds their regular rate of pay, such as the half portion of time and a half compensation that is required by the Fair Labor Standards Act, FLSA, and that is reported on a Form W-2 or Form 1099 or other specified statements furnished to the individual. Maximal annual deduction is $12,500, $25,000 for joint filers. Deduction phases out for taxpayers with modified adjusted gross income of over $150,000 or $300,000 for joint filers. taxpayer eligibility. Deduction is available for both itemizing and non-itemizing taxpayers. Taxpayers must include their Social Security number on the return and file jointly if married to claim the deduction. Reporting: employers and other payers are required to file information returns with the IRS or SSA and furnish statements to taxpayers showing the total amount of qualified overtime compensation paid during the year. Guidance: the IRS will provide transition relief for the tax year 2025 for taxpayers claiming the deduction and for employers, other payers subject to the new reporting requirements. So, that all being said now, the Postal Service held up their end of the agreement that they were required to with the big beautiful bill, and there was a letter that was sent out. Now, everything I just said per Elm section, where did it just go? Sorry, Elm section 44. Where did it just go? Part-time employees.
444?
Nope. Yeah, which I'm like, I thought it went away. Sorry. 444. The base rate for pay for these rural carriers equals the base annual rate of a 40-hour evaluated route plus overtime at one half times the base hourly rate for all hours worked in excess of 2080 hours a year. Hours worked in excess of 12 hours a day or 56 hours in an FLSA work week are payable at 150% of the carrier's regular rate. So, that being said, the Postal Service sent out the letter, and the letter is it's from the accounting service, and it'll say like it'll come like kind of like your Form 50 or your pay stub does, and it says subject tax information temporary federal tax deduction for qualified overtime compensation. Supplemental form W-2 data tax year 2025. Supplemental form W-2 data for your federal tax return. Effective for 2025 through 2028. Individuals who are eligible for overtime under the Fair Labor Standards Act, FLSA, may be eligible to deduct their premium portion of the FLSA overtime, the half portion of time and a half. See ELM section 443.1 from their federal taxes as qualified overtime compensation pursuant to the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. The total amount of qualified overtime compensation for you is as follows. And then it'll say tax year 2025, and then it'll say qualified overtime compensation. And then there's an amount, and some people it'll be zero. And I'll come back to that in a second. Eligible employees may have received postal overtime, see ELM section 434.131, or penalty overtime, see ELM 434.133, which are generally more generous than FLSA overtime. And pause here for a second. That does not apply to rural carriers because we do not have penalty overtime or in those sections. However, the deductions is limited to the qualifying premium portion of FLSA overtime and does not extend to other overtimes or premiums. For most FLSA non-exempt employees, FLSA overtime is overtime paid for working more than 40 hours in a work week. For most FLSA non-exempt employees, FLSA overtime is overtime paid for working more than 40 hours in a work week. For regular rural carriers compensated under Section 7B2 of the FLSA, FLSA overtime is paid for working more than 12 hours in a day or 56 hours in a work week. The Postal Service makes no representation about your eligibility for this temporary federal tax deduction. The Postal Service does not provide tax advice. If you have questions about your eligibility for this deduction or this deduction generally, you can contact a qualified tax professional at your own expense. The IRS has also shared information about this temporary deduction on its website, www.irs.gov, including eligibility requirements, deduction limits, and income phase outs. Now, if you guys really want, I could go and find section 7 B2 of FLSA. You want me to get that too? You want me to pause for a second? Pause.
Breathing moment here. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say, didn't we do that when we went over the overtime or for the Christmas overtime?
I think we did. But I think that it's a little bit more. We lost everybody too in the audience. That's funny. I'm sorry, guys. I know it's real fun. Real boring. So the big thing is that amount that we're gonna get is if you worked over 12 hours a day or over 56 hours in a work week. And the other part that I'm assuming, because I did not work over 12 hours very often, is that it is also if you assisted on other routes, because that rate is also an FLSA overtime rate. So,
And
and
you
it is
worked a
also
Sunday.
only the half portion of that. Now, if you want to get really technical, if the union also put out a thing that said they don't know how they calculated that. There was like in a couple weeks ago, there was that weird adjustment that happened, and the union had put out a statement that said they're still talking with the postal service about how they came up with those amounts, and we have not had any follow up still on that. If you want, you could go through your pay stubs. There's only 20, it's just 1 year's worth. So if you want, you can go through and you can actually look at the pay stubs that probably say FLSA. I'm assuming, or you can look for like the hours, the overtime hours. From what it's looking like to me, your DACA 3 and your DACA 5s that are in there do not count towards it.
No, they do not. I know a carrier in my office that got his letter. His was a big fat zero amount, and he works his relief day every week under a DACA 5.
Yeah, and I think that because of the fact of Section 7, what is it? I don't even remember now. That Section
7-2B or
7B,
7B2.
yeah, of the Fair Labor Standards Act and that Elm Section 444, that's why it's not counting towards it. And I wish, I think I've said this before, I really wish that not the Postal Service, I wish that Congress would have been a little bit more specific about this no tax on overtime, because it looks, on the outside looking in, it looks like it's very, um, it looks good, but there's, when you really go and look at the Fair Labor Standards Act, and there's a lot of people that are not covered under this bill now. Like there is uh that I wasn't aware of before either. I mean, I've in the process of me looking this up, the executives, the which I think that's fair, but also like it should be like there's exemptions. There's, if you're gonna say no tax on overtime and you're not gonna explain, like it should be like no tax on you working over 40 hours. Like that's how Congress, like, I mean, that's just my opinion of it, but like Congress should have done something along those lines.
Yeah, it makes it. I mean, when it first came out and everybody talked about the no tax on overtime, you're thinking, all right, so I'm working 50 hours this week, and I'm not talking about us. I'm talking about normal jobs that have a 40-hour work week or whatnot. And they're thinking, oh, so I worked 50 hours, so I won't get taxed on that 10 hours of overtime. No, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
It's, you're still getting taxed on the base amount, but it's that additional
You have 5 hours.
50% is what is being
Yeah, you have
getting the tax credit
five
on.
hours is non-tax.
Yeah.
But I know that I know me and Kristen have seen a couple on there. There's so many there's so many people online right now posting about it because they're just so confused about it. Now, I will say this, the Postal Service actually did kind of okay in that paper. Like, it is a little vague, but if you, I guess, do the research of those of that language that's quoted in there, it makes a little bit more sense. And even like putting like, hey, look, we're just giving you this because we're supposed to give you what we are showing as your FLSA overtime. Or even they could have just put FLSA overtime. That probably would have simplified it more than qualifying overtime.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know one of the social wood groups there, that I don't know if it was a troll, but they were all just like blah blah blah, posted as anonymous, and I came in and was like, yeah, it's based on FLSA. Oh, explain that, and of course, they want to accuse anybody of saying that as being a management troll. I just kind of laughed at that, going, and I couldn't even reply because the comments had been turned off at that point. I'm thinking I'm the furthest away from a management troll that you can get, probably.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I've actually some of my managers, I've talked to them a little bit about it, and theirs is all zero.
Hmm.
And because I mean, and I think it's partly
Well,
because
they're
of,
extra salary, so
yeah, they're also on salary, and I think like their penalty overtime and all those sorts of things don't really count towards it, or something along those lines too. Um, but yeah, they still were required to get that letter, and it just shows a big fat zero on there. So for them,
Yeah. Like I said, I have not seen mine yet, so when it gets here, I'll look at it. I don't think it'll be much, if
I have not
anything.
seen
So
mine either.
yeah, and the
But
one
then
that I'm
again,
really curious about is seeing the RCA's,
yeah,
yeah,
and I haven't really seen much of that on social media yet. And that honestly is still kind of a question mark to me because they once they hit 40, they are more like the normal jobs where you hit 40 and you get time and a half. So,
yeah, depending on where you're
and
at. For them to hit
yeah.
50 plus hours in a week is not unheard of.
Yeah, and I mean, and this note was very specific that it said regular roll carriers in it. So that leads me to believe that the RCA's ones are going to look different than what the regulars will, obviously, because they once they hit 40, it's no longer evaluated. It turns them hourly.
Yep.
And I think maybe it's for like situations like this where it just gets really confusing with a lot of it. So, um, but the other part that's I'm gonna also say, because I know I also have been looking and waiting, the W-2s. I have not seen any postal W-2s yet. This is the only thing I've seen. They have until January 30th to start it, or was it the 30th or 28th? I don't
The
know, end of the month to
the
start.
legal definition is they must be postmarked by first business day prior to the 31st.
Okay. So we'll get them soon, but we don't have them yet. I know that I've started delivering other people's W-2s.
oh, so have I. I always expect them to come the 20th or after. It kind of tends
Yeah.
to be about where they are. It's usually, right
Yeah, we would say
around.
about the 23rd, they started showing up on postal ease.
Yeah, it's usually around the 20th. It's usually, well, that's where we're at right now, pay period 3 through the first week of it. So I imagine they probably be out sometime by the end of this coming week. That's at
Yeah.
least online, anyways. If you get yours off of postal ease, uh, just by going by from the last 11 years, that
Yeah.
it should be. I roughly should be by the end of this week. I mean, it could be later, but that's kind of how I foresee it. It's usually between pay periods 2 and 3.
Yeah, and the other part is the advanced annual leave usually it gets put into the system the second full pay period in January.
Yep. So it
That's the
was
first full
So
paper.
it was available as of the 10th, and I do believe from what I was reading, will show up on the check coming on your pay stub coming on the 30th. So the pay period that we're currently in, that paycheck will show your advanced annual if you are a regular.
Yeah. So,
But it
yeah.
is
Sorry
available
if
to
you're
use if you have to use it as of the 10th in the computer
yeah.
system. That I do know. I Postmaster had to look it up for another carrier, so it is showing in the system available. It just won't register on your paycheck until the 30th.
Yeah, sorry. I know that was a fun people are like, "Really? We're gonna talk about taxes? We're rural carriers."
And
Like,
tax season, it is coming up. It is starting. So it's not a bad thing to talk about. And going on too with those that drive POVs on the route, I have seen a lot of things come about. Well, hey, can I deduct any of my expenses? The thing is you receive EMA. If you receive EMA, that is your reimbursement for using your car on the route. I know in the past, if your expenses went above and beyond the EMA, I mean, that is stuff you definitely need to talk to your tax professional with. I
Well,
know it comes to the
oh, the
point to where you
understanding I
have to then turn around and include your EMA as income, which then changes your taxes, especially if you have a big route, long route. It could put you in a different tax bracket. It's just a cluster. So if you drive a POV and you are paying out the wazoo for repairs and you save every single little receipt for everything, including gas, and
including windshield wiper fluid.
yes, every single little thing you have to have a receipt for, that is something you want to talk to a tax preparer with. That's not anything you want to dive in because EMA is a reimbursement, so it is not taxed. So if it comes to a thing where you
but
have to claim it as income, it could affect your tax bracket.
the understanding I have briefly on that is it has your EMA has become taxable income,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're deducting whatever your maintenance charges are. So it's a matter of is it did you pay more versus what you received, and is it going to be worth it? I had a friend of mine every year he would play that game,
Yeah,
and he
and then
would calculate it out to see if it was even worth it for him that to put it in there.
And I
yeah,
know
and
of several
when
carriers that use a separate separate account just to put their EMA in. I mean, because that's what it is for, is for your vehicle.
yeah, and you could put some of it into a savings and then manage it a different way. You just have to figure out the way that you want to manage that and then go down that road if that's what you want to do. But the fact that it's not taxed is a big thing, and I think that that's why it's designed that way because you are using it for delivering, and it is incurring the expenses and such. So I think there was one year I think I'd gotten like $11,000 in EMA, and I spent it all. Like it was, I kind of tracked it pretty closely, and once I started ticking over, that was when I bit off too. And then I was pregnant and stuff too, so I didn't want to go into labor out there in the boony lands. But that's another story. But
Right. I hear you on that. That's a completely different story and a completely different topic.
yeah,
And
yeah,
we have covered the pregnancy and stuff in the past. I know I went over it as a request. I mean, we can touch on it again. I've seen quite a bit on that coming up. Um, Maybe on a future episode. I know Meow and I need to start putting together our history of the NRLCA series, though.
yes,
Yes, we need to work on that. Maybe I can do that while I'm sitting in my hotel room in the evenings this week. Start digging stuff up.
yeah,
Yeah.
There you
yeah. There's
go.
a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah,
That'll be a fun series. That's we wanted to get through the holidays and whatnot, and that is just something more. It will be a series. We're not going to cover it all in one episode. That's for sure.
yeah. There's too much. I mean, well,
Way
and
too
and even
much.
like us with these documents and stuff too. There's so much history. There's so much that has happened and like referenced, and I think looking back and seeing like why it's referenced is important.
Hmm.
There's there's things that have happened and resulted to us in like why we have the evaluated system, there's a lot.
Yeah, the evaluated system. We can go back in, history of contract negotiations and how Rex was formed, and which, I mean, there's a ton. It really is. I mean, I know you still blame. I still see people blaming Rex on, why did they allow this to go on? And if you don't know the history, you're not going to understand how it came to be. It wasn't
Yeah, and
just
honestly,
something. Yeah, it was something that was thrown in our lap, but again, it wasn't something thrown in our lap. And it came out of an arbitration, which was not a vote down of a contract. It was an impasse. But they were looking at other ways to properly evaluate a route. So that's eventually, we'll touch on that in history too as we come up into the more recent history of it. But we'll start in the beginning and work our way forward.
yeah,
So,
because there's a lot of things that have, yeah, even like what was it, like World War II, they had to during World War II, the tires that they were using on the vehicles were thinner, and because they were trying to use a lot more material for World War II and not on actual vehicles in the country. So there's those
right,
sorts of
right.
things.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I mean, it's going to be a deep dive for both of us, and it'll be interesting. I'm ready to deep dive into it, but that's just
Yeah.
I haven't had a moment to breathe the last few weeks. So
Yeah. Yep, I get that. So, but
I understand.
it'll be
And I'll just
fun.
be here. I'll be here to look pretty and come for the ride.
There you go. You may be learning a few things too. You never know.
Yeah, I might.
Yeah, I think we'll all be
I
learning
thought,
stuff as we deep dive into
yes.
it.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's very fascinating.
Yeah. And and as a reminder, the new national agreement is available on the website in a flipbook version, and everybody should be getting a printed copy in their mailbox. If you are a dues paying member of the union, you will get that in your mailbox. Don't throw it away. Keep it in a safe place. Use it for bathroom reading material if you must, but be acquainted with your contract. That's biggest thing I can say for people is, get acquainted with it. Not saying you have to read it section by section by section, but if you're curious about how leave works or bidding on routes and how things are supposed to be posted and you adding in more of job responsibility stuff outside of the PO 603 and stuff like that. Take a moment and read a section here or there. It never hurts to educate yourself on your job and your
Yep.
rights.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. I would suggest start with 603 and the contract. And then if you're that much of a glutton of punishment, the M38. That way you
Which
know
is
how management's supposed to do their
so
job in regards to
outdated.
rules.
Yes. I
Yeah,
think the
well,
last one that was published in the 80s, so if that tells anybody anything.
well, true that, but
Yes.
it's still their
And you can still
user
use it
guide.
against them if need be.
Yep.
I love using their own
You're,
manuals against them. It's great.
Like, go read
you're
the elm.
still I was just going to say, if you're still
Yeah.
having insomnia, there's always the elm.
Yeah, the ELM will put you to
All
sleep, hopefully.
all 900 sections of it.
Yeah, and that covers
It
all crafts, not just ours.
Yep.
sorry, it's 960 pages.
Yeah, I don't look at it unless I'm looking for something specific, so I am
If you
not
go
going to
read the
try and
dark parts
even
of the
print that out. I think I have it downloaded somewhere. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
I have it downloaded
I
like
think I have
10
it downloaded somewhere also on my phone, maybe. But classes Alan Gigax, Classes of Mal, did a series where he read the elm.
wow.
Did he
I
read
don't
the
know if it
dark
was
parts of the elm?
100%. I know he did a chunk of it. I don't know if he did the all 900 pages, but
That's a
he did go
lot.
Maybe
through it.
we do one where we read M38 from what is
There
it,
you go.
1980? It's 1970
Oh, the
something.
M38's a fun one.
Yeah, let me find it.
I know.
Yeah,
I
when I
was
discuss
looking at it too. I was looking it up real quick too.
yeah, it's an oldie but a goodie.
Oh, it is. It really is. Oh, there it is. I got
1980.
it. Yeah, July of
Yeah.
1980.
Yeah, M38's 10 years older than me, so yeah, we're doing
It's
great.
2 years younger than me. So in July, the
Great.
M38 will be
Yeah.
46 years old.
Yeah. Like we're doing great here.
Right, right.
It even says July of 1980.
Yeah, it
Does it?
does.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, my birthday's in July, so it's literally 10 years older than I am.
Wow.
It's great. It's great.
It's 2 years and 4 months younger than I am. Um,
If anybody asks me at work, I'll be
We
like, "What do
won't
you want?"
discuss what the age difference between me and it is.
you've got a few years on it.
Actually, it's not that
It's
bad.
not that bad.
I
It's
have a couple years on it.
yeah.
Thinking
On
about
average,
it, it's not as bad as I thought at first.
no, it's not that bad.
No, it's not. And it's not an overly huge manual either.
No. It's pretty vague and there's stuff that needs to get updated, but
Yeah.
I'd rather a PO603 get updated first, but
Yeah, I would love to see the PO603 updated. That'd be
yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
In fact, I just found a copy while I was going through stuff.
Yeah.
And I think
Mine's still on my
2013 was the
nightstand.
last publication date for that one. I don't dare want to
Base
knock over
requirements.
that pile of papers at the moment and dig it out.
I got an older copy in my
Oh,
car.
oh. I okay. I forgot. I wanted to say this too before we get I know I don't think it's officially out yet though. The mini mail survey. The next mini mail survey is going to be February. Where did it just go? February
One second.
21st through March 6th. The last day for RMSS updates is Tuesday, February 13th. Sorry, 17th. Mapping cutoff. So the last day that you can map and have it count towards that evaluation is Friday, March 6th. And the last day for mini mail survey changes and like if management hasn't entered all the stuff, if there's corrections that need to happen, is Friday, March 13th. But I also want to add a little disclaimer there. Usually there's a cutoff time and it's usually central time. So make sure that you're getting those in there as quick as possible. And then the effective date for those evals will be Saturday, April 4th. And then to add with that too, that's usually like it's close to around when the next relief day work list will have to go up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So kind of keep that in mind. And then this isn't as far this is further out, but the fall mini mail survey is going to be August 22nd through September 4th to 2026, and the mapping cutoff for that would be September 4th. Sorry, Friday, September 4th, 2026. And the last day for mini mail survey changes is going to be Friday, September 11th. And those evaluations will be effective Saturday, October 3rd, which is the beginning of the guarantee year.
Yep.
So February 21st through March 6th is the next mini mail survey, and the one right after, no, not right after, the one later on this year will be August 22nd through September 4th, 2026. So I hope that
And I'm just gonna, as I'm perusing the website here, but for those that are looking to retire soon, OPM, Office of Personal Management, has now, personnel management, excuse me, has introduced a new system to process retirement applications. It's done; they can be done online now, and it's disability applications will continue to be processed through the legacy process using the paper forms, but online retirement, ORA, secure fully digital system will replace the paper-based process. To begin a retirement application process, ensure you have a valid personal email address and a login.gov account. Again, OPM, we had to do a login.gov account for open enrollment insurance purposes, so that's the same one you're going to use. Once you have a login.gov, it's good for everything that it's required for. So it does say to contact HRSSC. It gives the phone number. Option 5, provide your personal email that's linked into your login.gov account. HRSSC will initiate your account using your provided personal email address. You'll receive an email invitation with instructions for accessing ORA, and then log in securely using your login.gov account to access it. The system will prompt you to link your account, create a digital signature PIN, which you'll use to certify your retirement application. Once you have accessed ORA, you can begin to prepare your retirement package by completing the application and uploading PDF versions of your supplemental documents. Example SF 2818, a W4P, marriage certificate, and spouse's consent. The Postal Service will be providing frequently asked questions and additional information on retirement guide regarding this application process in the coming weeks. So if you are getting close to or looking into retiring, you'll be able to process that online.
Now, do
Yeah.
you know, will that be in lieu of requesting the blue book, the retirement book?
I don't know if that's in lieu of. I think it probably goes hand in hand. You probably still get the retirement book. It's just that you can process instead of mailing the papers in, you can do the application right online. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah,
I
and
do not know if
Okay.
that's going to take away the retirement book or not. I'm going to say probably
yeah, and you
Okay.
can
not.
ask when you're at SAC next week, you could ask John Embleton that question
Absolutely.
I could.
because they got the retirement seminar that's going to be in there, so that'll be good for him to. Yeah, so yeah.
Yeah.
Got that down to remember to ask.
There you go. Those of you who have POV routes, as you probably already know, your EMA decreased half a cent effective January 10th. So it's down to 97 cents per mile now, or 38.80 per day, whichever is greater for those of you that use your POVs. Other good stuff happen that I can
I
think
know. I'll
of.
think of like 10 after I'm done.
Oh, I know, right? And then we'll be like, hey, no, the holidays are done. Now it's just surviving January and February of winter for me. That's we've got this Arctic temperatures thing coming in. I'm actually kind of glad I'm not going to be on the route,
You can keep
but
it because I know it's going to sink down to here, and it's already
yeah,
been.
it's going to be ugly. So you guys make sure you layer up, be warm. I do have two pairs of heated socks. They're really uncomfortable to wear in my boots because you have to wear a pair of regular socks under them. I usually go with a thinner pair underneath of them, but they're thick, so wearing them under my boots has not been comfortable. So I actually haven't had to use them with my boots yet, but we'll see. It's been interesting.
That's what. That's why you get boot at least a half size bigger to accommodate for the extra bulk of the socks.
Yeah, and these are big enough that I'd be tripping over them if I got them any bigger. Trust me.
Gotcha.
I know it's been, those that want to get on the national delegate ballots. I know those are available in the national magazines already to send those in. No, I got to get mine up to do that.
Yeah, I got a
If
full.
there's
You got to make sure that you send it to the PO box listed for your state.
absolutely
You can't just send it right to the your state secretary treasurer.
right.
It has, due to labor law, it has to go to that PO box
Yep,
designated for them.
yep. That would be the same for if your state requires you to mail them in as well for your be a state delegate at your convention. I know states tend to do those a little differently depending on the state you're in. Mine, we do have to send them in to our local secretary treasurers. So you know what you got to do for your state to be a delegate at your state convention if you want to be that.
Yeah, our state, they do it. We vote on the delegates at the local meeting when we vote on our board,
Gotcha. Yeah, ours we
which
have to
basically is a
send
sign it.
actually.
Yeah, we basically it's a sign up sheet, and then the secretary treasurer or my local secretary treasurer reads off the names, and we vote to adopt those names as delegates for our district.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, every state kind of they have their own way. So make sure you know how your state works when it comes to being a delegate for your state convention if that's what you want to do. So yeah, I've got to send mine in because I think ours is only in the one state magazine, I believe. So gotta do that.
Yeah, like our state, they started paying the delegates as long as, but you have to pre-register prior to with the state secretary treasurer um, to be considered for that, and obviously a registered delegate for your district.
Hmm. The National Convention is going to be August 18th through the 21st, Grapevine, Texas this year. Those will normally come out. Hotel reservations normally open up the 1st of May. As it gets
Yes.
closer, they will announce that. So be on the lookout for that. I'm still deciding if I'm going to drive to Texas or fly. I was actually thinking about driving. As y'all know, I drive everywhere. I drove to Reno, Orlando twice. That's just how I flow. The last time we were in Grapevine, I did fly down, but it was just me going. But my son is relocating to the Littleton, Colorado area. So I told him to keep me informed of what's going on around his birthday, which is 2 days before National starts. And I was thinking about either taking a couple extra days before or after because I already looked it up and it's like going to be like a 12-hour drive. So I figure
Yeah, from
maybe I can go see my son while I'm out there. We'll see what's going on.
yeah.
Yeah. Once I
Yeah, it's
told
just a
him that,
straight
he was
shot.
like, "Oh, yeah, really?" I was like, "Well, just, I'll remind you as it gets closer because it's August, obviously." So,
Yeah, it's a little bit time.
yeah.
Well, and then
I,
keep in mind the mini mail survey. I know if
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
I was just going to say, I would suggest going before rather than after,
It
so
really
you're not
just
missing too
depends
much of the survey.
on who I have for an RCA for my route at that time and whether it's something I
yeah,
feel I'm going to have to worry about or not.
Gotcha.
Um
cross that bridge when you get there. Yep.
exactly, exactly. I am not stressing over it at the moment anyways, so it just depends. I know there's a concert festival that weekend before that's local to my parents and I'm trying to decide if I want to go to or not. So that kind of is playing on whether I fly or drive or y'all know me and my concerts. But yeah, we've got SAC coming up this weekend. What's the next one? Is SWAC the next one or Eastern? Eastern's in April.
I think it's SWAC after.
SWAC,
Wax
Eastern.
in February.
Okay. Eastern States is in April, and Mid States always closes out the regional conferences in May. I know Mid States room
Western
blocks.
states is in
Oh, yeah.
April also.
Yep. Western States is in there too. Yep. And I know I got to make my reservation for Mid States, and I discovered when I was checking it out that I have to have the full payment up front. So, not doing it this week.
Yeah. There hasn't been any new information that I've seen about route adjustments. I think because of the fact that we have the mini mail survey date. Typically, they have like a certain criteria of time to adjust the route before a mini mail survey. It's like a project that they work on. I think like right after the evals go into effect is usually about like within that first month or two, and or like the first couple months right after it. But if you were a route that was adjusted, you per that MOU, you need 52 weeks of data for them to generate a new eval and have it essentially become unlocked unless you have natural growth or there's other things that are going on and with the growth then that's another story.
Yeah, I'm going to be curious to see what my route does with this next mini mail survey. I don't want to go back down an hour. I don't think I will. My packages, because I track my scans every day, I write them on the calendar. I wish I could talk all the subs into doing it, but I'm not going to hold it against them from not doing it, especially now that I don't
Yeah.
have an assigned RCA to my route. But I'm just, and I just tossed out the other calendar, but I still have last year's calendar. I tossed out 2024's already, but I kind of go back and I try to see a pattern with my parcels. And yes, I know your scan count still. Everything you scan, certifieds, all that is included. I get it, but
Yeah.
it just kind of it gives me an idea of a pattern on how where I'm at with my package volume in general. So I know the
Yeah. Oh
last
yeah.
couple
Yeah.
weeks have been just crazy. I mean, yeah, Friday I had double Amazon. So, I mean, I had 191 scans Friday. But it's I've been holding well over 100. Well, obviously, except for Thursday when we didn't get Amazon and it was light otherwise because all they had was flats and post office packages. But and I know UPS is coming back to several offices. It's kind of phasing over time coming back in. Some offices have already gotten it back. Ours hasn't quite yet, but I know it will happen eventually. And and that almost correlated when we lost the UPS, and it was the following many mail surveys when my route dropped an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to. I mean, it's always a good time, like right now, especially. I know we're approaching that mini mail survey, but if you're a sub that's listening to this, please I encourage you to just regulars too, but the subs, please refresh yourself on those 24 activity scans. I feel like it's almost, I don't want to say that it's forgotten, but I just don't feel like there's as much of an emphasis on the education of it and it's repetition, it's the reiteration of it. We all have to, it has to be ingrained in us to make sure that we're all compensated fairly. And I know that you can vent. There's the frustration of it. It obviously it's not gone away. It's not going away. So we have to help educate one another. We got to look out for each other, and the easiest way to do that is refreshing yourself on the 24 activity scans. There's a newer RCA that's in my office. He's been there for 9 months, I want to say now. And he had a postage due and he was asking me something about it. And I was like, oh, you need to make sure that you enter the postage due scan when you're attempting to collect the funds um, when you're delivering it. And he was like, what? There's a postage due RX scan? And I'm like, yeah, did they not like I know they taught you that at the academy. Like there's a sheet of the 24 activity scans. And I think that especially with the newer subs, you get so overwhelmed with having to learn the routes. But if you're learning the routes and the scans together, it you won't forget.
And if
You know,
you're
it's
and if you're training a new RCA in your office, go through the scans as they occur out on the route. I mean, that's what I've always done as an OJI. If they had to make 2 or 3 trips to the door with parcels, that's when I say, all right, pull up that Rex menu and go into trip to door and put how many trips you put in there. You know, that's how they're going to learn how they fall into the part, when to
muscle
do them
memory.
on the route and get in the habit of doing it. And it starts right with, especially, yes, they cover it during academy, but to actually get in the habit of doing it while you're training them, you need to step them through it as it happens. That's the only way that they're gonna fully realize, oh, okay, when I go to the door and I gotta go to the door more than once, I gotta go to trip to door and put, plug that in. So, that's what I
Yeah.
can suggest, especially if you're the ones training them in the office. Every office should
Yeah, and
have an OJI. I know many, 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 many do not, but that is, and I have heard of areas saying, "Oh, we don't do that anymore." That is not true. The OJI position is, alive and well.
yeah, and I think that I know
Underutilized.
that
Yes.
it's yeah, and I think that there's we all have an obligation to look out for one another with it, but also I view like in my personal opinion of it, and I've been telling this to the managers because I know that they're very hard about scanning integrity and making sure all the parcels are scanned where they're delivered and that all the parcel scans are cleared. The RX scans are equally as important, if not more important. Like you have to show what we're doing. It's no different than you delivering the parcel and scanning it where you're delivering it. We all have it's if you think about it in that way, I think maybe it'll get through to different people, but Um,
And
just refresh
yes,
yourself on.
yeah, and there's two important reasons on why you scan that parcel where you leave it. I mean, if it's delivering to the door and you're scanning it at the truck because it's raining, don't scan it at the truck. You need to scan it where you deliver it. Number one reason is the evaluation under Rex, because when that route has been mapped under the DPM, you have a park point and then you have the delivery point, the door, and that distance is what is considered your out of route distance, and that's the distance it adds to that value for that parcel delivery. So yes, that is part of your pay with the evaluation. That is one big reason on why you scan it where you deliver it for that GPS pinpoint. The second reason is to cover your own behind. Because if you scan it at the truck or you scan it in the middle of the driveway as you're driving up the driveway, don't ever scan it while you're driving anywhere. I don't care what package it is, a small that's going in the mailbox, you scan it at the mailbox. Don't scan while you're driving. Don't scan it somewhere else. Scan it where you leave it, because if that customer then questions where their parcel is, that they didn't get it, and management can pull up and see where it was pinpointed at, and you said you left it at the door and it's pinpointed right at the door of where you delivered it, well then you're in the clear. But if it showed that you scanned it in the middle of the woods walking to the door, well then you're not clear because it's not showing that it was delivered to the door by that GPS pinpoint. I've had that happen to me before. I had a customer, I was still a sub, and I scanned it right at the front porch where I left it, and they called saying they didn't receive that package, and my scan showed right at the door where exactly where I left it. So I was in the clear for that. But yeah, that's the two important reasons why you scan where you stand. Is number one, your evaluations, and number two is a CYA. And that way, if it was left in a different place because it was raining and there was an overhang around, to where it wasn't going to get wet, even though it was close to the door, so it sat at the door or the porch, but it wasn't necessarily exactly in front of the door, then also if the customer called and they could say, oh yeah, it was scanned, looks like it was around the corner from the front door, or, by the garage, or whatnot. That way, oh, okay, maybe, didn't go look and see, or somebody else brought it in. Like, oh, okay, So that's why that's why you want to scan it where you stand, where you're dropping that package off at.
Yep.
Sorry, to backtrack because mic issues. Sorry. Where you were talking about scanning it in the truck, or because it's raining. Now, there's no one. No one has been able to show me personally one way or another. But over time, and I'll admit on a rare occasion, I'm guilty of halfway up the driveway, I'll initiate the scan.
Yeah, you don't
The
want to do that.
breadcrumbs that I said, I know them, and I try not to, but just habit from years and years of doing it. The breadcrumbs potentially will sting the pinpoints.
Yes. I also noticed doing the initial mapping when we did the first phase of mapping for the DPM and LTMs. Doing the initial mapping,
Right.
I did have a carrier who scanned in the truck all the time and then delivered it to the door. So when I was doing was with her and we were doing the park points and the door points, I instantly knew where she was parking because that's where she was scanning it. And when you scan it, as soon as you do that initial scan, that's when it pinpoints, not when you clear out the scan. Now, there is a breadcrumb trail from where you initiated it to where you cleared it out. So if you forgot to clear it out and you're driving down the road, they can actually see where it was cleared out at. But that initial pinpoint, when you initially scan it, is where it pinpoints to be dropped at.
Yep.
And even if you have to manually enter it in, soon as you start hitting those numbers to manually enter it in and you hit enter, that's where it's pinpointing it.
Right. I'm going to say when you hit enter.
Yes. And when you have to type in that tracking number, because for some reason it's not scanning and it may not have a QR to scan, or Amazon's ridiculous sometimes with their they're heat printed labels and it's not always readable, so or scannable, so you may have to type it in, or it happens. Labels get messed up, so if you have to type in the tracking number to get that number in there, make sure you are standing where you're dropping it when you start typing it in, because that is where it's going to pinpoint it.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Anything else tonight, guys?
No, I think that's it. I'll go on too many tangents. Oh.
Tomorrow night numbers,
Yeah.
Powerball, Mega Ball numbers.
Also, if you are going back to the subs and going over the Rex information and reacquainting yourself with stuff, if you are a member of the union, get on the NRLCA website, and on the main page is Rex resources and Rex training. And I mean, this can go for regulars to anybody. You member of the union, get on the NRLC website, and all your information. The comprehensive guide is available on there, updated. The most recent update was February 4th, 2025. Mini mail survey resource pages, those tend to get updated shortly before if there's any changes. Cover factor explanations, calculators. The Q&A is still up there. Uh, reports to request under Rex, dispute process presentations, end of shift duties. Yes, the end of shift duties are highlighted in there as well. So if you have management that's coming down and trying to say, you only have, so no, you can print out the list of end of shift duties directly from the NRLCA webpage, and it has 31 items on there. So you can't tell me that. I mean, maybe some days if it's stupid light, that you can get done in under 10 minutes. I usually average 17 to 18, 20, between 15 to 20 minutes into shift duties myself on an average. But some days it's longer, depending if I got to do edit book, case labels, mapping, other stuff that needs to get done that hasn't been done yet, any leave slips I need to submit.
It takes what it takes.
Yes, exactly. It takes what it
Yep.
takes. And if management's trying to benchmark you, well, there is a form for that, and I suggest you contact your assigned steward. But yeah, all
Yeah.
that information's on there. There's the MDD, the activity scan quick guide. There's the 2024 State Convention Rex PowerPoints on there, all under resources, under training. Got all that good stuff on there. Carrier pickup procedures. So if y'all are still questioning what to do under the RO, under carrier pickup, I mean, those are there for you as well. Mapping training, the DPM, LTM. I mean, even if you're not a regular, if you're a designated 79 on an aux route, you're going to have to do your DPM and LTM every month. If you're a designated 74 on a regular route, DPM and LTM, you're going to be the one responsible. Same with the edit book. Get yourself familiar with that. The rural route AMS edit book maintenance SWI. I know I have to fight with my management, especially with the SWI, with the days, because in here it specifically says, day 23 through 30 is when you do your DPM and LTM, and I've got them wanting to do it this past week, and I'm like, yeah, no.
And you'd have to redo it because it
It
won't
will
update with
re-upload.
the
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And I had a sticky note on my clipboard when I came into work Friday wanting me to do it. Well, after an 11 and a half hour day, I'm not doing it at 7:30 at night. Sorry. Not happening. So I'll do it
With
after.
double DPS. Definitely
Yeah,
Amazon.
exactly. I'll do it when I return to the office next week. So it will still be within days 23 and 30. But yeah, so I mean, there really is all that stuff. I know some offices are trying to get all the edit books in before the 10th. You have until the 10th to turn your edit book in. So don't let them try and bully you into something that is in black and white. All right, guys, we're going to wind this down. Josh, your final words for this evening.
Depending on where
Silence.
you're at, the weather's starting to change. Dress appropriately. Be safe out there. Give yourself extra room if need be due to weather conditions. If you get overwhelmed, first, don't get overwhelmed. But if you do, take a step back, take a deep breath, and step back in. Have a good week. We'll catch you next time. Meow.
Well, thank you guys. I know the beginning of this wasn't a fun episode, but I hope that it was insightful for you. And if you need any additional help with that, please contact like your tax person because they're going to be the one that's going to be a little bit more knowledgeable about that. But I think that we're all kind of learning right now with, it's a new thing this year. So, and it'll be going on until 2028. So, kind of keep that in mind when you're doing your taxes. But hopefully everybody has a good week. Thankfully, tomorrow's a holiday, so I'm pretty happy to have today and tomorrow off. It's a rarity for me to get 2 days off in a row. But I know, again, I wanted to remind you guys if you need some outside help of and what's going on in your life, and you just need to talk with somebody else who you need, just like that's not involved in your life, or you are feeling overwhelmed, you do have the EAP, the ability to contact EAP, the Employee Assistance Program, if you need it. Their phone number is 1-800-327-4968, and it is the Employee Assistance Program for uh, USPS employees and anybody in your household. So, again, that phone number is 1-800-327-4968, if just in case you need it. So, but hopefully everybody has a good week. So, Kristen?
Thank you guys. Yeah, it was a lot at the end. That's why we try to lighten it up a little bit. Or at the beginning, it was quite heavy, and taxes are all frazzling. Anyways, I'm usually my own tax preparer, even when I had my own business. So for me, it's really, it's helpful to have that information. And then we try to lighten it up towards the end a little bit, touch on some, other things going on, and reach out to our RCAs, and where we can get them on point with doing things correctly. Because, yeah, route evaluations affect RCAs too, regardless of what people think. And I know those offices where RCAs are working massive amounts of overtime. I understand that. But in the event that you're working 40 hours or less, that route evaluation, that's your pay too. And that's your pay when you eventually go regular, so you want to make sure those routes are properly evaluated for everybody. And as our old friend Bill used to say, what you put in the scanner goes in your wallet. So just kind of remember that, and educate and re-educate yourself on the Rex, because it's not going to go anywhere. That's pretty much a given. So it's what we have for now. But on that note, yes, those that are getting the blistering cold that's coming in, please be safe, layer up. If you have to take a comfort break to warm up, please do. And, hand warmers, if you have heated socks or heated gloves, heated vests, don't leave them on. I know a lot of people yell about the batteries and fires and whatnot. Use them when you need them. Turn them back off. Disconnect them. I know if I'm like, all right, I'm warm enough now. Not just even just turn it off. I'll actually disconnect the battery completely. And then if I need to turn it back on and warm back up again, I'll reconnect it. That's just, for my safety as well. So we don't need anybody getting injured when you're using heated articles of clothing. So, if you need to turn them off, disconnect the batteries as well, just to be safe. Don't forget, usually it's drier air in this weather, so please stay hydrated. It is important year round. We do preach that quite a bit. So, and I think we're going to take a break for next weekend, since two out of the three of us will be at the South Atlantic Conference. I am not making it again this year, but someday I will. So, on that note, guys, have a safe week, and we'll be back in 2 weeks.